Hey, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a great Monday. I know that I am. We had an awesome day working outside and chopped up about a cord of wood. Woo! That's like some of our favorite things to do. I know it's like twisted, but that's okay.
We moved into our cabin all weekend, but I
I
didn't.
know, yeah. Congratulations. That is so exciting. Can't wait to see pictures. So joining me today from Wealth Factory, Garrett and Tim, and we're going to tackle a kind of like a really sticky subject matter. If you missed Garrett and I last week for Chiropractic's birthday, I'll make sure that the link hits below so you can catch our hour-and-a-half webinar about being wealthy and about just being a successful entrepreneur. We also had some pretty cool giveaways on there and some special deals. So you're going to want to watch it. And as always, here's the deal. We cannot read your mind, but we want to answer your questions. We'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. I give Garrett huge props that during our webinar, I think we answered every single question that was asked. And that's why it was supposed to be a 30-minute broadcast, and Garrett hung tough and we stayed for an hour and a half in order to make sure we answered your questions. So here's the deal. You got to put them in the comment section and we will get to them the best that we can. So Garrett and Tim, welcome, and thanks for joining me.
It's good to be here with you. Based upon some of the topic, I brought Tim on board because he actually has the depth of knowledge behind it, and also a better cadence because sometimes I go just a little too fast. So I think it'll be good to go back and forth with us and answer some of these questions.
Beautiful. And Tim, thanks so much for joining us. And listen, everyone who's watching, Tim and Garrett are part of the Wealth Factory, and every member of the Wealth Factory has their expertise. Tim's not trying to be Garrett and Garrett's not trying to be Tim, or one of them would be unnecessary. And so I encourage you to do the same thing in your own business. Know what you're really good at. Like, what's your queen bee or your king bee? I don't know if there's
My wife's
thing.
company is Queen Bee Consulting, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Go Carrie. So I love that we're doing this as a joint effort. And I asked for their help because I don't know, but I know people who know the answers. And that's why I've partnered with them to help all of you today. So again, a reminder, put your questions in the comment sections below. Roberto and Shauna, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for popping in the comment section. So Tim, let's start with first that stat that you just rattled off a second ago about income-based repayment or along that lines. Let's start there.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're talking specifically about the 501c3 option, right? Trying to set up a nonprofit, working in a nonprofit so we can get 10 years of student loan forgiveness instead of 20 or 25 years of student loan forgiveness. And, what I've noticed about that is if you do the math on it, how much time are we trading for that money? And so if over 10 years, for instance, you got $250,000 of student loan forgiven in 10 years instead of 25 or 20 years, but you then had to put 30 hours a week into working for your nonprofit, you would have put in 15,600 hours over that 10 years into working for your nonprofit. So if you take a $250,000 forgiveness, divide it by that 15,600 hours, you were working for $16 an hour for 10 years. And so
wow.
It doesn't make sense, right?
No reason to go to chiropractic school to get $16 an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's back up to the consciousness. I repaid my student loans. I mean, this is obviously all by God's grace and because I learned what to do to be successful in business. I repaid my student loans and my then husband, who's now my ex-husband, in 3 years. Was it easy? No. Did we have to make sacrifices? Absolutely. But that was, that was a debt I had signed up for. And that education definitely gave me the opportunity to make way more than our loan. So can we first talk about where did this idea come from that I'll get this education and then somebody else pays for it?
Well, I think it's born of scarcity because a lot of people believe that something's going to happen to them, right? Like it's almost like an entitlement mentality. And when people are in fear, doubt, or worry as their main mantra, then they look for that kind of knight in shining armor or that like government to come in and take care of their lives. And here's the deal, that person's not going to show up. And a lot of times the strings attached are so deeply negative because it gets us derailed from the thing that we first started with. And I think that we only get stuck in that when we're not clear about our vision, we're not clear about our purpose, and most importantly, the rules of prosperity and productivity and profitability. So that's a lot of P's I just threw in there. I'm really impressed with myself. But the world is operating on value creation for 98% of the time. And unfortunately, 2% of the time where it's not, because someone's born into a certain family, they're deceptive and coercive, or they get lucky for some reason. We use those exceptions to the rule of the 2% to justify this type of thinking for everything else. And so I just, why did you go to school in the first place? What value do you want to bring to your community from a health standpoint? And are you doing this because you truly want to be charitable and deliver value to people? Are you doing it because you're scared about the student loan that feels like a weight on your back and shoulders, and you let that start to become, and I guess let me cut myself off there. When our vision is lower than our problem, it's crippling and we want someone else to solve it. When our vision is greater than our problem, we get resourceful and find ways to get there through productivity, through profitability, through value creation, through solving problems, through serving others. And so I really find it's a trapped mindset.
All right, so say that again. When our vision is smaller than our problem.
Yeah, when our vision is smaller than our problem, we look for a miracle outside of ourselves. Who's going to save us? Who's going to be there for us? And we think that the world's unfair. We feel like the rules are unfit. We feel like that's where people start playing the lottery, or that's where people start going, I don't know what to do. Here's this program. I guess I can do that. But that's not why you went to school. That's not what you really want to do. There are those 2% that want to be charitable, and that's cool. But I find taking 1% of all my revenues and donating that to charity is the best way that I do it, because now it's tied to profitability. Now it's tied to more productive I am, the better off that they get, versus me taking away from things I do because of guilt, shame, feeling like it's wrong to have money, feeling like, oh, I can't do things until I get rid of a student loan. I don't know. I mean, I look at a student loan for some people as you just got to accept it as a sunk cost. It's not going to be a popular conversation here, especially for some of the schools, but they don't become better chiropractors a lot of the time. They're not the best adjusters when they get out of school necessarily. They're not equipped on how to go run a business necessarily. And yet at the same time, because they haven't had that mindset of being in the world and delivering value, they've been living off someone handing money through a student loan that they have to pay back. It's wait, I've now come into a harsh world where the rules are different, where I can't just get it handed to me, and it takes hard work. And you know what? It's exhausting sometimes opening that first business, figuring it out. But what you do is you just continue to remind yourself, why are you doing this? Yes, if your whole reason is to make money, you'll get exhausted, because it has to be greater than just making the money to get the motivation to get past the minutia and the mistakes and all the problems that we're faced and riddled with. Because look, I've lost money with business initiatives, with marketing initiatives, with people that I've brought into my life to help me get this message out there. And then I just had to say, okay, now what do I do about that? Because I'll tell you what, I lost a lot more in real estate 20 years ago than people had in student loans. And I had to get resourceful rather than going, oh, is there a loan forgiveness or is there a loan modification? My answer was, I'm going to have to produce more and learn these lessons along the way.
You know what I have always thought is the amount of energy and time and people you're willing to talk to get out of this loan. If you had instead made it your mission to figure out how to win in business, you would have been winning for years to come and be able to pass that legacy onto your children, your colleagues, and everything else. So you're going to have to do one of two things. Why not do the thing that puts you the furthest forward for a lifetime and really does help you fulfill your mission, purpose, and passion?
Spend 10 to 20% of your time thinking how to be mindful and save, and then spend 80% of your time thinking how to produce. So you don't want to overproduce to the point where you're just getting sloppy and you're not thinking about how that transfers into personal wealth. But you don't want to get crippled pinching pennies and scrimping and budgeting and using all that energy that's not fun most of the time, hoping that it's going to work out. And I did this exercise where years ago, I can't remember, maybe 15 years ago, I was like, how much money can I save if I spend 10 hours looking at everything that I could cut out in my life? And I had to cut out things that I actually enjoyed. And then the next weekend, I said, I'm going to take 10 hours and I'm just going to think about my vision. And I'm going to think about what I can do to produce more value. And you know what? That continued to make so much more and pay dividends today. And by the way, I just ended up increasing those expenses back up anyway because it was shit I wanted. Why get rid of all that stuff that you want if it's actually useful? The key is you don't spend more than you make. You don't borrow to consume. And you just continually ask yourself, how do I serve more people? How do I solve bigger problems? And what is my vision in a way that it lives in my heart and compels me, not on the wall that means nothing? Like, it's not a vision to say, we want to make our community healthy. Well, of course you do, but that doesn't compel anything. If you're like, I want to add 1 million years of healthy life to my community. Okay, now we're on the right track, right? How do you do that? Well, take your time, put your focus on that. And instead of reduction, put it into production. Reduction is cutting off. It's restrictive. It's scarcity. Abundance talks about innovation, ingenuity, value creation. And the more we tend to focus on that, it expands our thinking. It expands our opportunities. And by the way, just think about people that you're around that have that energy, that have that zeal, that have that excitement. That's contagious. Like I saw Roberto Monaco make a post on here just a second ago. That dude's full of energy. I'm always uplifted when I get off the phone with that dude because he's so great. And if he was just talking to me about, oh man, I had to learn English, and I only spoke Portuguese, and then he made his whole life about how unfair it is in America. More people don't speak Portuguese, and can he get in a little community of just a few Portuguese people that could complain about that together? Like, that's the equivalent of complaining about a student loan. It's already happened. You've already paid for it. Now the question is, are you going to produce with that? Because all that was a permission slip to go out there and deliver value. The real value comes afterwards.
Nice. I love it. All right, so Tim, let's get down to the nitty gritty of, so there's income-based loan repayment and there's debt forgiveness. Can you give us just like a bird's eye view? What is the difference between the two? What do people who are looking down that road, why would you never so let's first talk about both of them. What are they, and what are people likely being misguided in concerning both of them, please?
So the one real concerning thing is that these rules are all governed by the government, who is $21 trillion in debt and counting. In just the last tax law change, they already discussed only putting a cap on forgiveness at $25,000 to $28,000. So they're already discussing major transitions. When they first created the student loan forgiveness, whether it was a 10-year if you worked for the federal government or a nonprofit, or whether it was a 20 and now 25-year forgiveness, they projected the cost to the government by 2017 would be $4 billion to service that. Instead, it's been about $12 billion. And so they're already looking for ways to make some major changes. So we can't go through with planning on, I want to be a victim for the next 20 to 25 years so someone can help me. We need to plan on production and growth. And as Garrett mentioned, if you already have the intent to be charitable, I have talked to a couple of chiropractors that were pediatric chiropractors. They were already setting up something kind of like St. Jude's or something, where they said, no child will ever be turned away from our services. And they were raising money for that, and they were making sure that if the family couldn't afford it, too bad. We're still paying for it. We're taking care of them. They were already doing about 30 hours a week of something that would have qualified. So for them, I want them to take advantage of that because they're providing so much service for their community to people who otherwise couldn't afford it. But for most people, just to try and figure out how to start a charity to save money on my tax, if that same 15,600 hours you spent on your charity had put into production, you could now create a legacy of charity that lasts generations beyond your time.
Yeah, and look at what that curve looks like, okay? So why it's appealing is maybe the first hours that you spend in trying to get debt forgiveness feels like a big deal, so it's up here. But it's diminishing return every year. Business, you might be confused, you don't know how to monetize, so it's down here. But then it starts to build that exponential growth. And so I could imagine a few people going, yeah, Gunderson, he's got money. What the hell does he know? He hasn't gone through this kind of stuff. But let's just share a little bit of a story behind this. Okay, I had over 100 real estate properties at one time that I owned between 20 and 100% of each door for each piece of real estate. And all my business partners declared bankruptcy in the real estate game or walked away. So now I'm holding the bag with this real estate. At the same time, I had committed close to $500,000 for killing sacred cows. hiring a literary agent and a book promoter, and doing the PR for it, hiring a PR firm, paying for full page ads in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. And so there was a day when I wrote a $91,000 check that took my account to negative $500. At the same time, I met Joe Polish on a phone call, and he goes, hey, you should join my mastermind for 25 grand, which I'd just written that check. I decided for a year, I didn't carry a wallet with me. I had an ID in my pocket. I didn't have cash. And I said, all right, I'm going to get super resourceful. So I went to the gym that I worked out at. I went to the gym owner and I said, hey, I'm willing to give you some advice if you'll just give me 3 months where you train me one-on-one, because I got to keep my health up during a really stressful time. We did that barter. I said, Joe, I've got some people I could refer to you. What if I made a down payment now? And we worked out a payment plan, because I don't do payment plans. I'm like, here's the referrals. I just showed up with only $5,000 to $25,000 in hand that I borrowed from my freaking mom. And then I just let people know that I was traveling in these cities. They say, hey, we'd love to hang out with you. I'm like, great. So I stayed at friends' houses, clients' houses. I sold books on these trips that funded being able to pay for food. I cashed in points of any hotel. I went a year where the only time I used cash or credit is I went to my wife and said, I need gas in the car. I rode my bike to the gym. I did whatever the hell it took, and I was in a dire situation. But my vision was New York Times, a million entrepreneurs, economically independent, and my vision was greater than this insurmountable amount of loans that I had when it came to my real estate. And so I wasn't looking for the government to save me with the real estate portfolio. I basically said, I'm going to have to work 75% of the time on my business and 25% of the time on managing this destructive loan that I have within all my real estate. So I was able to get through that. It took 2 years. The second year of it, I actually had cash around me. I was able to squirrel away some money, but I still hit the New York Times during that time because it was a vision that I felt called to, because I didn't want to have books sitting in a garage. I didn't want to have books that only my family and friends read. I wanted to actually get to the world. And here we are 10 years later, and I've got people still emailing me about that book changing their lives, or being one of their favorite books of all time, or schools saying, we're going to put it in the school system now because people need to know about finance. So I'm not coming from a place of always being handed something. My dad's a coal miner. There was no silver spoon, right? My family had no money when they left Italy to come over to the United States. So I come from a place of, I know what it's like to be in that stressful part of scarcity. And here's my advice. Number one, you've got to find a good tribe of people to spend time with that you look up to, that you admire, and that you're open enough with, that you say, I'm struggling right now. I don't know how to solve this. Number two, instead of so I'll just use Roberto as an example. Roberto saw me at the lowest freaking low. I just got the worst news about one of my and we were supposed to film. He was in town, and I literally said, I got to go home and take a nap, man. And he didn't even understand who I was at that moment. But I still came back later that day. He worked with my team, and I got through it. It's like, I'm not saying it's not complicated or difficult, but here's how I did. I would call people like Roberto afterwards and say, hey, man, what are you excited about? What are you up to? How can I support you? And I offered value, not worried about whether he's going to pay me, because I wanted to get a deposit of good mental energy. I wanted to get momentum. And then I would just tell people, like, Tim, man, I'm really struggling right now. And he could ask me a question I wouldn't ask of myself. And it would get me just that much further along. And all I looked at what is one positive step I could take today? And towards that vision, I didn't want to take steps back going, oh, bankruptcy. Oh, it was the market's fault. I just had to take accountability and move forward, talk to people, let them know what's going on. Because Barbara, we know if that kind of stuff's going on, in our life, people can feel it. They can sense it. So if we try to pretend our way out of it, we actually exacerbate the issue. It's when we actually open up, and you're going to find people will help with amazing amounts of energy and value because they want to get you to that next piece. Yes. You have to give up. I had to give up. I don't call my mom during that time and go, Mom, can you believe what happened? She hugs me. It's not your fault, son, because that's what the people most dear to us say a lot of times. And I like my mom's hugs, but I don't want her making me feel like I'm a victim, right? So I call the people that I admire, that I don't want them to know I'm struggling. I go, I'm struggling. And this is what I'm dealing with, because then they bring their resources, they bring their insights, they bring their energy. So That's what if you're in student loan debt and it's crippling you, you're losing sleep, you're stressed, you're breaking out in hives, you're crying, you're fighting with your spouse about it. You know what? This is what you got to do. You got to start your morning intentionally. You get up first thing in the morning, and what you do is you focus on 3 things: exercise, education, and personal enlightenment. Part of the personal enlightenment for me is meditation and gratitude work. You've got to be extra intentional about gratitude in tough times, right? So you start your day that way because that's going to help you deal with the scarcity. I remember the day that I had the phone call with Joe. I got up at 5. I rode my bike to the gym, listening to audios. That's probably a little dangerous, but then I worked out. I rode home, listened to audios. I did that call with him. Like, I felt inspired. I was excited about the book and the work that I put in it. I felt like it was a crucible moment for me where I was like, this is the test of, I could write all this stuff in the book, but now I get to say, what is it like when I'm experienced in the very midst? And I would tell people, I'm like, they're like, how'd you figure out this book? I'm like, I just went through this. Like, I'm going through this right now. So that's the key. So you got to have these conversations with people, but not the people that are going to hold you back, keep you down. Like, there were people during that time, Barbara, that were like, when they heard I was struggling, they're like, he deserves it. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I just stopped spending time with them. I didn't have conversations with them. And I took that time, and instead I wrote a list of 20 people that I knew were fans, that wanted to see me succeed, that I could trust my life with, and I could share these things. Because, man, there were difficult moments. I remember I had a breakthrough on one of those calls. There's this guy, Gary Cady. I was talking to him, had a major breakthrough. He's like, you're beating yourself up. He's like, think of yourself. You've moved into a 5-year-old state. And what you're doing is like punching the 5-year-old in the face. Would you ever punch a 5-year-old in the face? I'm like, no. He goes, you're doing that to yourself. And I remember I broke down crying. And then my wife woke up for the morning and she walked out, and I'm in there crying, and she's like, are we in this much trouble? Holy like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm actually having a breakthrough. I'm having an insight. And the thing is, you take those lessons, you take those situations, and it becomes a fuel of, what can I now help other people with? What can I support them with? Because if I wrote Killing Sacred Cows not going through that moment, it was all philosophy. It was all theory. And so I had to put the very things to the test, and to the point where that happened. And then within 2 years, we had more revenue and profit than we could more growth than we could even freaking handle. So, like, I feel you. If you're in a tough situation, don't go it alone. Don't pretend it's not happening. It's okay to have scarcity. I still have scarcity. I teach this stuff. I have those bouts. It's just that I'm more aware of it when it comes, and I'm willing to talk through it when it comes. So I have much shorter bouts, and I get to the other side, so I could be in a much better state rather than in that scarcity state, because scarcity will always destroy your wealth. So anyway, I know that was like a dissertation, and I just went off for a long time, but I feel really passionate about it. And I also could feel like from people, it's like, yeah, that's coming from you. Well, yeah. And this is what I had to go through to get there.
Well, and I just want to bring up the point too, like the whole idea of Roberto talking to other people who are struggling with a language thing. Okay, so now we have the same struggle. Who's going to come up with a solution? So why in the world be in a community that is struggling the same way and none of you have a solution? Like, be in the bigger places. Like, Garrett reached out and said, listen, I don't have money to give, but these are all of the resources that I can give. And he did everything that he could to keep moving closer and closer and closer to that vision, not shrinking back of who else wants to play small just like I do, and let's form a community together, because then there are no solutions. Like, no one's lifting their head up to see, what can we do? So please, please, please do follow this advice. And Jessica asked, how can we share this? Like, number one, Jess, thank you so much for asking that. She said, what's the best way to share this information with our community to affect the world's mindset toward abundance? Share. Like, all of you right now, go to the share button. If you want to end this poverty consciousness that is inflicting a tremendous amount of pain, not only in our country now, but think of generations to come if we don't turn this around, right? It's all of our responsibility, personally, professionally, because success is our duty, our responsibility and obligation to impact everyone that we know with an abundance consciousness. So please, please, please share this immediately.
Because other people know they're not alone. Like, my wife, when we're doing stuff with our kids, she's like, she a lot of times feels like we're the only ones dealing with that. But I work with so many people in what I do here. I'm like, nah, like, everyone goes through this thing. She's like, and she'll name people. I'm like, oh, did you know they did, like, they actually experienced this, this, and this with their kids? And then, like, it's just so helpful to just recognize other people are struggling, but then you're with the people that actually go, and this is how I solved it. Here's resources. Here's the connection. Like Roberto wrote, I'm a big connector. I connect with no intent of getting compensated, because the compensation is the relationship building. That's the compensation. The compensation is the power of that community that I know I could also rely on, because I can add value, and I may never call for more value back, but it builds goodwill. It builds what I call relationship capital. And if you think you have a money problem, it's never a money problem. That's only a symptom. There's two more precious forms of capital that drive all money. The first one's our mental capital. And if you have the wrong mindset, you're destroying and poisoning your mindset and your mental capital, because you won't be in the mindset of how you add and deliver value. It's why our confidence is important. It's like, that's the biggest thing I'm trying to work with my kids on, is being confident. And I feel like as human beings, we beat ourselves up. Like my son this morning, we're leaving for school, and my wife goes, did you get your lunch? And he goes, no, I didn't see it. She goes, it's right there in front of you on the table. He goes, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I'm so stupid. I didn't see that. And I turn, and she goes, why does he do that? I'm like, because kids verbalize what the rest of us a lot of times say to ourselves. I'm like, how many times does something that inconsequential and insignificant happen in our life, and we go, I'm stupid, or I'm an idiot, or I can't believe I did that. And we spend time beating ourselves up, where the whole human race, the entire thing is, we learn through mistakes. Like, we didn't just walk one day. Like, I fell down, I don't know how many times. My parents didn't go, well, he fell, he's never gonna walk. But somehow in business, we think that's how it is. It's like, oh, I made a mistake in business. That's called another day. We make adjustments as time goes on. And the people that don't make quick adjustments because they beat themselves up, they get forced into corrections through bankruptcy. If we course correct along the way by saying, okay, there's a better way. Okay, there's a better way. Okay, that didn't quite work. What can we do to adjust? And so that's a daily commitment of that, what I call the power hour: exercise, education, and enlightenment. And then also who we spend our time with. So here's a perfect insight on this. Like, I had a friend a few years ago go through a divorce. So I just made a rule. I'm like, I'm gonna do one conversation with him. He was so negative about marriage and his ex. And I was like, what can I do to support you? What resources can I connect you to? And then I went dark for 6 months. Not because I didn't want to be there for him, because I want to protect my marriage. And I didn't want that toxicity to enter my marriage, because I have a vision of having an extraordinary marriage. So I have to be selective with who I spend my time with. Not forever, but I take time away from it. So if you're spending time with people that are complaining about student loans, they're complaining about their debt load, they're complaining about the profession, they say they don't feel like a real doctor, or whatever it might be, right? You've got to take a diet from them for a while. You got to say, look, they're not healthy for what I'm up to right now, and I need to take the time that's involved and inflicted with drama, and I need to embrace people that are up to something that inspires me. I had a dinner last night with 20 men, and these 20 men were all up to really big things. So I was like, how cool is this conversation? This conversation expands my horizon and what's possible, and I'm getting insights from it. Other people are having conversations that are a complaining conversation, which makes you feel small and makes things feel impossible. So, like, I just think it's hard for us to recognize our access to power and wealth is our conversation and our language. And if we have someone keep it in check, it will destroy and decimate us. I don't care how strong you are or how intelligent you are. If you cannot avoid scarcity or understand it or have an awareness or have a process outside of it, it will absolutely trap you and destroy all possibility of wealth. All wealth is built through conversation. Think about that for a while. Show me how wealth isn't built through our language. I mean, our access to everything that advances was accessed through language. So, like, this morning I had a parent-teacher conference about my son, and it was just a regular start of the year. But she's like, yeah, we want him to improve on his writing. She's like, he's so articulate when he speaks, but he's not writing enough. And I'm like, man, I can't wait to get home and talk to him about the power of vocabulary, the power of words, and the things that we really commit to and how we talk. It shows people how to interact with us, what we accept, we don't accept, right? And so, once again, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You've got me on a hot topic here, and I have a lot to say about it, and I haven't talked about it for a little bit.
That's awesome. No, I love it.
You know, he come out with all these great knowledge and stats and knows about all this loan forgiveness that I know nothing about. So thank God he's here, because I wouldn't know what to say there. I just kind of know why I don't know about it. That's where I'm focused, right? He has to deal with this because he's working one-on-one with people all the time.
Well, and you know, the thing I love about wealth is built through conversation. The very first conversation is the one we're always having in our head, right? So is it a scarcity mindset or is it an abundance mindset? And so that's another thing. Like my parents taught us to like follow individuals who are doing what you want to do, not like what you want to do in the next year, but overall what you want your life to look like. So Tim, let me ask you this. What like financial guru of the people that you guys run with from Wealth Factory says do student loan forgiveness and income-based repayment? Can you name one that says that that's the pathway to prosperity?
No, the only reason to even ever consider income-based repayment is if you're starting your practice and you're actually getting crushed by your cash flow, then you maybe do it for a period of time because it'll allow you to pick the lowest of two different options. One is 10% of your discretionary income. Discretionary income is 150% of the poverty level. So it's not what you truly have in discretionary income. It's what the government says is 150% of the poverty level is your discretionary income. Anything above that is your discretionary income. So that would maybe allow you to control the cash flow for a period of time so you can use the other cash flow to grow and produce. But every year as you recertify, your payment will go up because I expect that. I expect you to grow. I expect you to produce and be abundant. I expect you to get to the point where every time you recertify, your payment goes up year after year after year. So you do pay that loan off in its entirety before it's forgiven, because that is going to crush any benefit you would have gotten out of being a victim and scaling down and holding back to get some sort of forgiveness down the road that the government may or may not honor 20 years from now or 25 years from now, right? So
let's have that conversation real quickly, Tim. So what you're saying is if I go on whatever loan forgiveness or whatever thing that is, the government can change the rules of the game in 10 to 15 years. They can?
They can do whatever they
They've
want.
done it many a time.
I get people that will argue with me on that. They'll say there'll be riots in the streets. And my point back is just like the Social Security riots then, right? Because we promised something. 15.3% of our paycheck is gone every single month in those payroll taxes. We were promised something. We're not getting it. No one's rioting over that, right? So they've obviously changed the rules on some systems time and time again on us. And $21 trillion in debt and growing, that just is a group that's going to have to change some rules.
Yeah, and make sure that you're the person, each one of us individually, that you're the one who is responsible for your success and the rules of your game, right? So, you know, if we say, oh, well, you know, I'll go into this program because then, you know, my loan is smaller. I struggle even with the whole concept, to be honest with you. I can't even come up with the words for it. But and if instead our whole focus is on growing, like, listen, chiropractors, I don't even care if you're a student, providing so much value that in exchange you get $300,000. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a heck of a lot easier than living in scarcity. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. And no, you're not learning how to be a successful business person in school. That is not what they're set up to do. They're set up, whether you're in school to become a CPA or a chiropractor or a dentist, they're teaching you your trade, to be a chiropractor, to be a doctor. But when you get out in practice, and hopefully before then, you're learning, what do I have to do to bring people into my office so they stay, pay, and refer, and I can fulfill my mission, purpose, and passion to help them. That has to be our mindset. So
I need to address one thing about student loans, really.
Okay, please do.
Is it like, I don't know if I've ever shared this before. I probably have with Tim. But you want to know why college tuition is so much? Student loans, purely and simply. Why is health insurance so expensive? Or why is going to the emergency room expensive, or going to, a big hospital? It's because of health insurance. Because anytime you have these other third parties that are bringing things in, like I watched the growth of University of Phoenix. I watched the growth of a real estate company that exploded because they simply got approved for student loans. Because then it's like the money comes in and all of a sudden you just watch that thing start imploding. And so I think it's a travesty that the government has gotten in the student loan game, and that you could die and every other loan is pretty much forgiven, but they're sure as hell going to haunt your family about a student loan, right? Or you could have anything else, and they're putting that as a higher priority. Like come on, we've got to get beyond the scarcity mentality of big brother and the government taking care of us. They're not capable of taking care of us. They're not capable of taking care of all the complexities of the world because they're too damn complex. And the only way we're going to solve the complexity of the world is our own mental capital and relationship capital. And we have to think more abundantly, because if we get to the place where we just see there's so many problems in the world that we don't know how to solve them, and then we wait around, we don't need any more problem pointer outers. The news is doing a good job at the problems. They'll point it out all day long, every day. We need people that are involved in the solution, and the news doesn't report that. Small business creates more value, delivers more to the world, and you never hear about it unless you're in the right circles and tribes. So where are you placing your focus? What are the things that you're doing? And look, if it's already a decision, it's just a cost of doing business. If your student loans have doubled, that sucks. But the bottom line is, at least you have the ability to go produce and deliver that value. And if you stop thinking so much about that and start thinking with that time, like worry destroys wealth, because worry never leads to action. Stress is okay, that's a natural response, but worry is when we're not taking action and we continue to have it go in our head and ruminate on it, right? So stress and concern and awareness is critical, but worry that has us to actually stop doing things because it lessens who we are, that's destroying people, right? You gotta just get up, you gotta get accountability partners, you gotta be associating with the tribe, you gotta make sure that every day you're doing things to protect an abundant mindset, you gotta be really open and honest when you're in scarcity, and if you're in scarcity, don't get to that selfish place that destroys people. You gotta transition and transcend it to the service place where you're supporting others. And I gotta tell you, the book Give and Take is so instrumental in this, because the book Give and Take by Adam Grant, it illustrates that there's givers and there's takers in the world. And he says, who's on top and who's on bottom? And guess what? The person on the bottom are the givers. The person on the top are the givers. The person in the middle are the takers. The reason the givers on the bottom are on the bottom is because they never take care of themselves. They do everything from a overextension, don't know to say no to, help people out constantly at their own sacrifice. You've gotta love and take care of yourself first and foremost, or you got nothing to give. And then takers, they might be ahead of those lower end givers because they're just taking, but it's a scarcity place to be. It's a destructive place to be. You gotta learn how to be that giver that gives and make sure you're well compensated for the activities that you have a majority of the time. Because if you don't, you rob yourself, you rob your family, these student loans stay around longer. You can't, like the word sacrifice in a religious context means to make sacred. In a financial context, it means to give up or give less or to like lower yourself. Stop thinking in sacrifice and start thinking in value creation, and it will change your life. It's tough when you're in scarcity to think in value creation. That's why you call the people that you know you have good energy with, you know that are your biggest cheerleaders and fans, that aren't going to allow you to be a victim, that aren't going to allow you to shrink, that don't want to pull you down. Stop spending in just three categories. Your friends are people that you support, they support you. They always look to give back, you give to them, and it's a value creation economy and game. Do business with them if you want. Friendly, people to be friendly with are people that are miserable, they're in scarcity, they don't appreciate who you are. There's no accountability. They think the world's the worst place and everything's going wrong, and they're going to just absolutely diminish you. And then there's buddies. Buddies are the people that like, maybe you want to go fishing with them, but don't do business with them. Like they're great for fun. They're not great for business, right? They may be just I have a mentor named Roy Williams that wrote Wizard of Ads, and he's got the Worthless Bastards Club where they like just on a Friday, nobody cares what business you're in. They just go and they tell old stories, and that's totally fine. But that doesn't necessarily fully advance your vision. So spend a lot more time, all the time. Like, here's how you really eliminate your student loans. Whatever time you're in worry, whatever time you're in scarcity, whatever time you're complaining, whatever time you're in a negative conversation, stop doing that and start putting that towards thinking, value creation, and reserve it for the time with those people that can advance you forward. And it's more of a time management situation and a thinking situation than it is a financial situation.
So I think it's interesting, like the value give. And our son was in NJROTC in high school. And they gave out, like at the end of the year, they had like scholarship time for seniors. I didn't know this, and honestly, I should check it out. But they said it from the stage that the Elks Club in, like internationally, it was either Elks or Lions or one of those, or maybe it was all of them together, provides more scholarship money than even the federal government. The benevolence of individuals just like us. And guess what? They're not making those scholarships out of poverty. So if you really want to make a difference, right, be wealthy. Yeah. You can be way more charitable with your money because you'll also have time, right? Like if you're making money, you know how to use your time wisely. Where if you're just throwing time away, you will forever be broke. I firmly, firmly, firmly believe that the first thing you have to control is your time. Yeah. So
Paula's got a thing I really want to respond to. She's saying, what's the answer? Just make a crap ton of money and pay them off? Well, here's the answer. Number one, you've got to be more efficient with the money you are making. So before you just try to make more money, let's see if you're overpaying taxes. Let's get the government to help you pay these things off. Let's find out if there's a way to restructure, renegotiate interest rates, improve your credit score, improve the collateral behind it. Let's find ways that for the same dollars, you're going to make more progress. Then let's see if there's duplicate coverages or costs or improper structure to your insurances. And right now, if you're funding retirement plans and student loans are holding you back, stop funding retirement plans. Pay off the damn student loan. Now, someone else asked, Jill says, well, at 3%, should I pay it off? We've all got to figure out our cost of money. Our cost of money is our highest, best net rate of return long term. So if you have a 17% American Express card, that's probably your cost of money, meaning every dollar you spend, it's costing you 17%, right? Because you didn't pay it off. Well, there's also this interest that we forfeit earning. If we pay cash for something, we don't get a chance to earn that interest. So what interest can you earn? If you can earn more than 3% on your money and you don't lose sleep over it, don't pay the student loan off. If you lose sleep over it every night that you have student loan, or you get angry and frustrated and bitter about the world, pay it off. It's a situational structure, but I'm going to tell you the method to pay it off and the objective are two different things. Don't pay extra to these student loans. It traps your money. It locks it away. You got to have 6 months of expenses set aside for safety purposes, for a peace of mind fund, for evidence of the value you create in the world, right? For those purposes. So build up your liquidity. Even if it's being charged interest on the other side, look at the interest cost as insurance cost, because it's just to make sure you've got cash. Then, before you just go throw money in paying that down, look at one area, just one area of your business that if you put more money towards would help you to take things off your plate, be a better doctor, have time to focus on your vision, invest in yourself next. So get efficient, get your money back and build liquidity, then invest back into yourself, then find a group of people, 3, 4, or 5, or this community, and you have to have regular conversation. Measure that progress, talk about the challenges, but spend the majority of the time talking about the solutions, celebrating the victories, feeling better about what you're doing. These are the kind of things that are going to make a difference. And so this is why Wealth Factory exists, is we have the financial resources to get that money back for people, right? We have the people, we have the resources, we have the methodologies, because I don't want you to get in a place where you're so illiquid trying to pay this down that you're one financial surprise away from having to go borrow money somewhere else or go bankrupt. Like I read a statistic that came, I got on the reports when I was speaking at some of these like assemblies for the chiropractic colleges, that like $540 a month made the difference for a lot of these businesses between bankruptcy or succeeding in chiropractic. $540 is something that almost all of us could find with the right financial savvy. Now, like if you, like, and I've seen this, like I'll go back to 2011.
So Garrett, let me just stop you for a second and listen. With Wealth Factory, it's probably money you already have coming to you.
Right.
You just don't know it because of insurance or because of debt, like all of these different things. And that's why I popped up wealthfactory.com/BE discount. So before we finish this, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I think it's probably all right. Yeah. If we can offer it to individuals watching this, and when you're done with this part that you're on, let's talk about what are they going to get so that we're providing a solution during this broadcast. But keep going.
I'll do both. So
okay.
April 1st, 2011, I fired my whole sales team, everyone. I didn't feel like they represented our brand well. I felt like they were a little pushy and sleazy. I had discovered that. So I just said, all right, I guess I'm the sales guy for a while. So I did 11 to 12 calls a day, 5 days a week, until I built out the right processes that I could hire customer service-based people to represent us instead of schwarmy salespeople that we had. So what I discovered was a lot of that was chiropractors. I remember I did a call with David Jackson, Pat Temple. We're getting all these leads. And they didn't know I was calling, but I'd be the one that would call to do the appointment. And there were people that they answered their phone because they had no employees. There were people that were getting a second job at a grocery store. There were people that were, they had their office in their basement, or there were people that I went to one person that I talked to on the phone. I went and saw their office when I was on the East Coast. And I was like, you'll never do well in this office. It's so dingy and hard to find and gross. It says nothing about health. So what I recognized is there was more of an epidemic in the profession than I'd ever imagined, because I was working with so much of the cream for 2 years that I got to see these other situations where people were deeply embedded in scarcity. And so I got even more rudimentary of what are the basics that have to be handled in order to avoid the situation. But I can tell you this, if you're getting a second job, you've given up. You don't believe the value of your time. You're speaking to the wrong people. Now, if that's a desperate thing for 1 week, that's fine. But dude, my chiropractor is not going to be bagging my groceries. Hell no. You've absolutely got to believe in yourself and be around people that believe in you. Otherwise, you are already you got a foot in the coffin. So wealthfactory.com/BE discount. This is a package that we put together where we got our curriculum for wealth. That is the step-by-step process of how you achieve economic independence. And we emphasize 5 videos on those efficiencies of putting money back into your pocket. But the fourth set, so there's 5 levers. The first one is keeping more of what you make. There's 5 videos. The fourth set, if we move forward a couple, is scaling business revenue. 5 videos on that. We spend 3 videos on how to create and articulate vision. I talked about Daniel, who's one of my, one of the students that I mentored from the time he was a student to launch his practice, that did 8,700 his first week, because we were crystal clear about his vision. That's all I really worked on with him. Had him read some business books, gave him the financial roadmap that everybody could get here at /BE discount, and he crushed it right out the gate. Right out the gate. He had people doing things for free for him because they were so enrolled in that vision. They were so excited about it. So it also comes with a one-on-one call. And that's a judgment-free zone. Tim has done a boatload of those one-on-one calls. You can just tell, Tim is a nice guy. Doesn't feel as intense as me. You're way more comfortable. And he's been through stuff in his own life that he'll understand wherever someone comes in. It's a judgment-free zone that's there to support you. Plus, there's a lot of cool bonuses. Killing Sacred Cows, which to me is the map of how to get out of scarcity into abundance. That is the book on that, right? There's the Accredited Network Vault, which is the videos of me interviewing my financial team and telling them you have 1 hour to teach every important possible thing you could in 1 hour for the most important possible person you ever met. That was the context of those videos. It is phenomenal. The stuff you'll learn to save tax, the ways you'll learn to set up the corporations right, the things you can learn to build your business properly. It is awesome. And let's see. Oh, and Build, which Forbes picked us up as writers because of this. This is in your inbox once a week for 52 weeks. It is the detailed written, so you can read about it and be like, okay, that's how I improve my credit. Oh, that's how I restructure that loan. This is the killer package. It's $397. It expires on the 28th because this is something we open up just for Barbara. You can't just go buy it on our website. We don't normally this isn't something we normally sell. We do this when we find someone like Barbara that's going through our program. We love who she is, what she's up to. We're all right, let's put something together to support the tribe. And this is what we customized and built together.
Yeah, and there's one more part of it. What would the Rockefellers do? You get that from Wealth Factory, which is Garrett's book about, there were 2 families, right? The Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts. And the Rockefellers passed on their wealth and legacy. The Vanderbilts, gone, some beautiful homes that used to be owned by them or whatever. And so you get that, but you got to leave your comment on this thread. And because of that, I'll send you a special link so that you can get the PDF. So in these last 3 minutes, let me ask you this. When someone signs up from BE Discount, is part of the conversation they can have with their one-on-one, either I'm thinking about like my student loans, what should I do? Or what, Tim, what if they're already in that thing? What if they're already doing that nonprofit crap? What if this isn't right? Can you guys help somebody who's already doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, we can address wherever they're at in time and try and come up with a path that is going to lead them to abundance. That's what we want. We want a path that leads to abundance, because all of us, I think, are charitable. That's what I love about the chiropractic community. I've never met a chiropractor that didn't actually have a huge vision and passion for what they would love to leave behind. We just want to help them get that path to do so that vision doesn't die with them. We want that vision to live on long past our lifetime, right? So if they're already in the middle of income-based repayment, if they're already in the middle of the 501c3 system, if they're already in the middle of stuff, we definitely can look at that and say, okay, how do we get it so that, you know, maybe you don't have to kill your 501c3, but make it so it's less onerous on you, so that you can focus on growth and production, right? Because those things are a pain, honestly. I mean, you've got your annual filings, you've got a whole other set of bookkeeping, you've got a lot of management that goes in to keep that above board so that you actually get the forgiveness in 10 years. It does take that 15,600 hours. You'll use all of it that you'll spend over that 10 years. So we can look at that and see what your options are. If you're in income-based repayment, like I said, some people have to start there so they can get a smaller payment to begin with, so they can use the growth and have the opportunity to buy into a practice or to start a practice and become abundant that way. But that just means every year when we recertify, we'll be paying a higher payment, and we'll pay that thing off, right? We'll still get there, but we're going to do it through growth and not have that. You know, if you had a $200,000 payment right now coming out of school, your payment's going to be, if you're trying to pay it off in that 10-year period, your payment's going to be between $2,000 and $2,500, depending on your interest rate, every month. For a brand new person right out of school, they may not be able to make that payment and grow a business. So we might use a combination of the two, but get to the point where we're going to still pay that off.
Nice. So Anissa, she said, this is awesome. I don't even know where to begin for my loans. Anissa, you're not supposed to know, but I'm giving you this opportunity right now. Please go to wealthfactory.com/BE discount. Talk to the experts, please. Do not go at this alone, or do not get your advice from a lateral person, meaning someone who's doing the same exact thing that you're doing. Always level up, right? Get your advice from somebody who's already up here and knows, not this. It's kind of like, I always said to my kids about whether it was, you know, like, I don't know, having sex or drugs or whatever. Like, if you talk to your peers, they have the same experience that you have. I'm invested in you. I love you more than anyone else will on the planet. Ask my advice, not lateral, right? Not saying that these individuals want to bring you harm. They don't know. So instead, please, please, please do yourself, your family, your future, your community a favor. And please check out wealthfactory.com/BE discount. I don't have the answers. That's why I have.
Josh jumped in. Just want to say shout out. It's awesome to see. That was like, yeah. So
nice.
Great to see there. I'm trying
and Dr. Jessica said, I'm going to show this to Ryan and sign up for the Wealth Factory program. Absolutely. Awesome. I encourage all of you to do it. They have an awesome, you know, if you feel like this sucks or whatever, they have a great money back guarantee or whatever the guarantee is. Jump in, do it, get help. And Garrett and Tim, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your willingness to love on my tribe, to shed light on a touchy subject and one that diminishes optimum potential for my colleagues as well. I've seen that it's not just chiropractors. So let me ask you that real quickly. If somebody isn't a chiropractor, can they still benefit from Wealth Factory?
Well, we work with all the allied health professionals, and then entrepreneurs is where we really do well. I mean, we have a lot of e-commerce businesses. We actually started in dentistry, but I mean, we've had everything from people that sell olive oil online to, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you probably have way more knowledge.
I mean, there's probably no businesses we haven't worked with. Occasionally we find out about an illegal business and we have to say we can't work. So.
Yeah, that's happened once, I can think of.
So listen, if you're watching this and you have practice members who are struggling financially, you know, we're all about doing everything that we can for our practice members. Share this opportunity with them. I already got them to extend it until the 28th. It was only supposed to be the 21st. So listen, I'm gunning for you as best I can, but you got to step up and do something about it. So please, 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 wealthfactory.com/BE discount. Share it with if you're in an entrepreneurial group, a networking group, a BNI, let me tell you, your relationship capital is going to go through the roof because you can say, hey, you know what? I'm connected to Wealth Factory and I've worked this awesome deal for you. Take advantage of it. So even that alone, if you do that, I promise you, other business owners in your networks are going to look at you differently because you know about this kind of opportunity. So do it today. I mean, we can't do the work for you. You got to step out now. And please don't just tell yourself, oh, that's it. This is my line in the sand. Because line in the sand is only one step. Now you got to move forward and take action. And the best way to do that, wealthfactory.com/BE discount. Garrett and Tim, thank you so very much. I really love and appreciate both of you. For all of you who've joined us, we hold you with the greatest regard. Please know that you don't have to do this alone. We're here for you. Reach out and then we can help you. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
See ya. Bye.